Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello once again, welcome to the Simulationist podcast. It is iteration 25.
No, it's iteration 55 on the 22nd.
Thank you. I am joined by Ryan Kirkby on the other side of the table.
Corrector of mistakes.
And I am Josh Levin. And let's get started, shall we?
Yes. How was your week this week, Josh? What did you do?
Oh, my week. Well, I worked a lot, so I spent a lot of time doing that. I uploaded a flag, though. I made a flag out of wool, and different colored wool in Minecraft. Not in real life. Although that'd be fun. I should try that.
Hey, Netter's got a net, too. You know, they got to have patterns and ideas.
Yeah. So I made a flag, and I put it on my YouTube channel, so hopefully it goes, I don't know.
Viral.
I guess the flag itself is like a step towards a bigger, better channel, get some visual recognition and all that. So it's the Space Bootonian flag, because Space Boot 1.
Yes.
And it has a boot on it.
So I'm glad that you made a Space Bootonian flag rather than just a Space Booty flag.
I should have thought of that.
Well, you can still adopt it if you want. It's just it seems a little crass that way. Although saying that's how my mind immediately went for it, well, I guess that means I'm a crass kind of guy. But it's kind of nice having a flag, because the one thing I have really noticed them missing is style, flair, and things. There's no real wall tapestries you can put up, which would be great.
Oh, yeah.
They just have little pictures and, images and stuff, and you can put stuff in like a picture, so you can have this is my favorite sword. I put it up here before it got destroyed.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I quite like that. But they could do so much more.
Oh, well, yeah, they could. I don't know why they don't have,
I would love tapestries to be a thing.
Tapestries or, paintings or something?
Well, it'd basically be the same thing as combining a door with the carpet. Mm-hmm. It's a 2x1 on the wall, and then along with... Because they have so many pictures you can do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just have it be a random thing whenever you put it up. Oh, hey, now you've got, the British sort of side-style lion up on there. Beautiful. You went with a blue tapestry, so it's on a blue background. There you go. I think there could be a lot of fun to be had with that. A lot of style in there, and I'm always a fan of having more style.
That sounds like a good idea to me. There might be a mod out there to do that.
If not, there's always the forums to put on a request.
Yeah, you can post up a suggestion there. Aside from that, I've just been doing a lot of mining. I've been trying to get as many diamonds as I can. I think I have about 32 diamonds now in my world.
How's that saying go? Disregard creepers, acquire diamonds.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a modified quote.
I haven't heard that one before, but...
Oh. In that case, quotable by me. That's right. I make my own quotables now.
Well, wait, okay, how modified is it?
I believe the original saying is, disregard females, acquire currency.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure if that itself is a modified version of something I don't want to particularly say on this. We're trying to keep it clean here, but it's the logical gist thereof.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay. Although creepers you probably want to avoid anyways, so you don't need to be told to.
That said, I do like it when they fall over when I've killed them. There's a certain sense of satisfaction. You don't get it this time. No explosions.
Oh, I was posting it again on the forums, and and I had this great idea for like the creeper biome, where creepers are born from like cotton balls growing on trees. Like they're like twisted black trees with white, instead of leaves, it's these white cottony balls, and then the creepers every once in a while will drop from them. That's my thought.
I like it in style. On the other hand, I am fiercely against anything that's more creeper.
Yeah.
Although, if they did come out with an expansion like land, like they have like with the Nether or the End, where you have to fight a giant creeper, I'd be having fun with that.
Yeah.
I could see myself having fun with that. Every time you slash it and you hurt it, it drops out tiny little other creepers from itself, like regular size.
Well, yeah, bosses are definitely always fun, so...
I think that boss would be more of an aggro boss. It just aggravates you so much. I had it so close, and then they all blew up at once.
Yeah, I think that's about me. So, what have you been up to?
Well, I have not been working so much this week. I realized it'd been about 6 months since I last had any sort of extra time off, so I took 2 extra days off, and I'm having it right now in the middle of a 4-day weekend.
Nice.
So I've been doing a lot of Minecraft. Relaxing. I've had some interesting fun with it this week in that I finally got to the height I needed to on my tower, and I've started to build out in my blanketing the land in darkness, evil scheme.
Cool.
It's not that big yet because shadows fade with distance. It does mean that my tower is in the depths of shadows and even a sunny day. And that's kind of nice. It's a very ominous-looking tower right now.
How thick is your tower? Like, is it...
Let's see. I believe I'm at a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... I think it's a 9 by 10 area, all told.
Okay.
I decided to embrace the square. It's a square land with square blocks everywhere. I'm not going to try building a round tower. It's unnatural. Objectively unnatural within the setting. So I went with a nice square tower, square pit, square everything.
And what's the tower made out of?
Just basic stone. I took all the cobblestone I'd been making from cleaning things up around me. Because there's so much jungle, so many hills. I just had to start cleaning stuff out so I wasn't bombarded by creatures from behind every corner. So, I just turned the trees into charcoal and then fired the cobblestone back to regular stone and built it.
Very cool. And all the way up, like, it's how many blocks up is it?
It currently ends at about vertical level 245.
Wow, that is very high.
It is above the clouds, and yet when I'm up there, it still rains. How does that happen?
Oh yeah, that's a weird glitch. They might alter that. I don't know if there's plans to. But the world only goes up to 255 or something like that.
Yes, I wanted enough room so that I could grow trees up on top there. I wanted a paradise up top and a horrible dystopian bottom
right,
land.
of course, yeah.
Although I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I may have to institute walls just to block out the sun from every angle. Not even a sky in the distance.
Well, you only need to make your platform as far as you can see, which is what? 100, 200 blocks?
I'm on the 64-bit thing, so I can see pretty darn far. I've got a nice far range.
I see.
But even when you look off to the side, you can still see the sky in the distance. And that sky is a thorn in my plans. So I may have to build wonderful, brick walls.
Okay, yeah.
I'm thinking I might have some fun with it and make it so there's some nice arches, on the base level around level 63. So that animals can still get back and forth, and you can still maneuver, but you really can't see the sky. It's all getting imprisoned in, I'm trapped feeling.
Okay.
I said I have noticed some interesting quirks. Whenever I come down from on high, there are a lot of ocelots around my area. I'm talking like 2-3 dozen ocelots just standing around.
Oh, I wonder. Huh.
I've also noticed that I appear to be getting more spawns of neutral animals in the one little area I'm at, because I really haven't explored too much. I've gotten cats, the ocelots, the sheep. There were some wolves just offside. I got a dog with me now. It's fun.
Yeah, okay.
I got chickens. There were chickens automatically. I got them early on.
Yeah.
But I recently, just earlier today, not even 3 hours ago, noticed the sounds of pigs. I even saw one just wandering around.
Yeah.
That's a lot of random animals in such a small space. So I'm wondering if going up so high isn't causing some sort of like resetting of a counter or a number system.
It's possible. I think they might spawn in a radius according to the player. So you have like basically a
so whenever
sphere.
I come down, it
The bottom of
repopulates
the
the
sphere would generate something. Yeah.
Because when I come down, it's really creepy. Because I've cleared out a nice little field, so I can raise some more sheep, have some nice croplands. I might do some more chickens in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really kind of creepy how I come down and then there's like 24 ocelots standing around.
Yeah, I think the ocelots can be explained by the sphere thing, because the bottom of your sphere will be the only place where they can spawn in the entire, like, because
I have made sure to keep the inside of my tower very well lit.
Mm-hmm.
Although once I get to a nice sustainable mass up top, I may take out all the lights in my tower just to make sure it's a very dark tower, and then, if I give it off to, the internet, anybody starting up down at the bottom will have to go through the dark tower, which will propagate lots of beasties.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Make them earn the paradise up at the top sort of thing.
That sounds like a good map. Like, yeah, people would.
I'm working on it. Well, when I feel it's hit some sort of stage of at least semi-completeness, because let's face it, it's never complete. It's never fully complete the way you want it to be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So when I hit that, I'll put it up on there. Ask for like what can I improve. Other suggestions,
Mm-hmm.
and see what they say is good.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was my big thing. I've done a lot of other little things, a lot of small reading. I managed to get a new channel on cable. If you're part of my cable company, please disregard this. This never happened. But I seem to have gotten an extra channel. And that's one of the things I do like about the Shaw Cable Company is apparently they give me an occasional free channel.
Oh.
People are apparently just dumping out of the television system.
Okay.
When they got Netflix, who goes for, the
Yeah.
TV series on the actual channels? How archaic. But I've had a lot of fun, exploring some of the other stuff. Some of the programs I've seen in the last week have very much caught my eye that I would otherwise not have searched out.
Okay, yeah.
For instance, I get the Knowledge Network, which it has a special connection for me because way back in the day, when I was just a wee young lad, I only got 2 channels. And that was my entire television world. Mm-hmm. And then one day when the weather was good, we got a 3rd channel. I was like, ooh, 50% more channels for free. And it was the Knowledge Network. And they had some pretty good programming for kids. And nowadays they got some good programming for me. I'm watching, it's called a series called Ancient Secrets. And I'm learning all sorts of weird things about history. Like a 9,000-year-old city over in Turkey.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's like one of the first cities just after the Ice Age where people said, enough of this, I'm tired of walking around. Building a house there.
Okay, yeah.
Some interesting things is they had no streets. Everyone walked on the roofs, and then, when you got to your house, you just went down the ladder.
Huh. Wow.
That's not bad, it's not bad. The other thing was that when someone in your family died, you removed your bed, you put them underneath your bed, and then your bed was like 3 inches, of plaster, and you put that over top of the bed, and then you slept over top of a decomposing corpse.
Oh, huh. You'd think that might not be very pleasant.
But apparently they lasted for quite some time that way. And
so what happened when more family members died?
Oh, you just open up your corpse bed again, just move the old body off to the side, put the new one down. Unless you were particularly attached to that. Like, let's say, you die, but your wife loves you so much she can't really bear to have that. What they do is they chop off your head, and they keep the skull, and then what they do is they put clay over top to remake your face.
Oh, okay.
And so that when your wife passes away, she gets buried, and she'd be holding, like, your skull with your clay face over the front.
Huh, and they found these, I guess.
Yeah, that's stuff they found. So there's people that have been dead for 9,000 years that they know what the face looks like because they put that in clay. The clay doesn't decompose. It just lasts forever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays it's done with wax.
Well, it can be done with wax, but
nowadays, like, people still... Yeah.
They'll seal it up and preserve the body with wax, but it's a lot more like what they do with the forensic stuff, where they put the layer of clay over top here and there, and that recreates the face. They were doing something like that 9,000 years ago.
That's pretty cool.
Not as a forensics thing, apparently, but
Just because they could.
because they missed the person so much that they just wanted, the clay skull face just sitting around until they die.
In 9,000 years, and we still haven't figured out how to do immortality yet.
Well, here's the thing about immortality. If you want to live forever, you're going to have to eat like you're going to live forever. Most people aren't eating well enough to live 80 years in good health. If you're going to live forever, you're going to have to eat like you're not going to want to live the rest of eternity with colon cancer. So say goodbye to all those junk foods, all those artificial foods, the chemicals, and just the horrible levels of fat in some of them. You got to eat healthy, more salads. Sorry, that's the price of immortality, and most people aren't willing to make that sort of sacrifice. You could put like shredded beef on there, as a nice little, like an extra perk on your salad, but it's basically got to be a lot healthier eating than you or I or most people can do. So if that's the price of immortality, I'm okay with eventually dying in another, 60, 70 years. Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay, yeah.
I'm okay with that. Because it's all about quality, not quantity of life.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, one of the other programs I managed to watch this week was the series Teen Titans Go.
Teen Titans Go.
Which is kind of like a semi-sequel to the Teen Titans series that was so popular about a decade ago.
Yeah, I remember Teen Titans.
Very nice, very good done. The Teen Titans Go is much more cartoony. They play much more looser with the character personalities, and there's not a whole lot of like overarching, this is a season, and this is like the villain of the season, and it's focused on Robin this season, or, Raven this season. It's just very much 15-minute, just more standalone episodes, more fun, and they seem to enjoy it. They seem to be having a lot of fun with it. The
creators enjoy it.
The creators, the animators are having fun with the animation stuff. They're putting little things in here, there. They got all the original voice actors for the main five. And I like it just because it seems like they're enjoying it. And you can really tell when someone's enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, hopefully.
I had heard some people saying, "Oh my goodness, this is not at all like what I was hoping for a second series for the Teen Titans." I'm digging it. There's good jokes. It seems more like in the original series, if they were to have a cartoon within their world, Teen Titans Go would have been that cartoon.
A cartoon of a cartoon.
Yes, it would have been the cartoon that these people in the cartoon were watching. So
yeah,
I watch it and I'm imagining it that way, and it seems to fit well. I'm having more fun with it. Like the evil father of Raven, Trigon the Terrible, shows up and he pops in and he has himself a nice little sweater jacket and, pants and all that instead of just wandering around like skyscraper sized with a loincloth. And then they start playing it up like a sitcom sort of thing. There's an actual laugh track when he makes a joke. He's a father that's come to make good with his daughter. He just happens to be a horrible being of pure evil. And so they have fun with it. They don't take themselves too seriously. And there is something to be said about that, because a lot of series take themselves way too seriously.
Okay, yeah.
So I've had fun watching that stuff this week and just gauging it. And I don't care what some of the other people say. It's enjoyable. It's not deep or as complex. And trust me, I did like the depth and complexity of the original series. But this is fun. It's worth 15 minutes to waste. So.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, glowing review.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, see what you can find on YouTube. At 15 minutes, they should be able to work at least one episode put up there. If there's one thing they've learned from YouTube, is people are going to put the stuff up. You put one up yourself, get your audience, attract your audience in, man. Don't try and block them off before they even become an audience.
Yeah.
So hopefully, knock on wood, they've been playing things smart and that they've got a couple up there for people to, gauge whether or not they want to see it.
Yeah, sounds good.
So that was my week. Just relaxing, having fun with the wife and daughter sort of thing. Other than that.
Very good. Okay, so let's move on to another.
I have a nice news story for this week. Not exactly a conspiracy one, although every story is, ostensibly a conspiracy story.
Of course.
Researchers believe they may have found a way to make a more universal flu vaccine.
Okay, one vaccine to rule them all.
More like one vaccine to get out there before everyone gets too sick. what they are currently doing is working for a specific antibody to each strain and try and get that produced in a quantity enough to make it out and be effective for those who are most at risk. And then following that, whoever wants the shot.
Yeah, and this is a battle they have to fight again every year.
Sometimes several times a year, depending on how busy and how many people are going from A to B to C and carrying their filthy diseases with them. Honestly, guys, teleconferencing. You can do that. You don't have to get out there. You don't have to spread your sick diseases everywhere. But apparently no one's listening on that end. But this new technique is going to target the creation of a type of T cell that works on a more holistic base. It affects it targets the core of the influenza virus as opposed to the specific antibody connectors. And so it should work fairly well on all strains. No, of course, it will work best if you get one that works against all strains, and then you've got the one that also works against this specific strain.
Yeah.
To get a nice 1-2 whammy. But until then, it's just kind of nice.
And are these the same people then that do the sort of the same group of scientists?
The same body of scientists. I don't want to call them groups of scientists. It's not like they're all working in the same lab. These are researchers who have been exploring it.
Yeah.
They're working towards the same end. But then again, all scientists are technically working towards the same end, which is a better world for tomorrow.
Okay.
So it's kind of how it goes with science. We're all a team. Yay, team science.
All right. But, so, I don't know what this means for regular people, because we usually get our shot.
Well, it means that they should be able to have enough shots for everybody when things start getting bad, as opposed to, for the first 2 weeks, it's only going to be, those around kids, young children, or the elderly for this period. And then after that, it'll be a general, whoever wants the shot can take it. And it's not a bad system. I mean, higher priority for those who are more vulnerable to it, because the elderly and the young are both much more susceptible to diseases.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. On the other hand, having enough shots for everybody come the first day of flu season, get yourself taken out before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, if you immunize if you vaccinate everybody.
Or at least the majority of the population.
You
technically don't need to get everybody.
But
a critical mass, we'll say.
Yeah, then there's less chance of them passing, to someone vulnerable who either missed it or had, something didn't go right with.
I can't take the shots. I pass out, or have, wild, panic attacks around needles.
Yeah, well, there's.
It happens.
Attacks.
Yeah.
But some people are just simply too fragile to take it, to get a
yes,
shot.
Sometimes with the elderly, again, they're not exactly, the most strong of our hardiest of our population.
Or they might have other conditions. I think they've worked around the things like allergies to the.
They're doing what they can. It's always a work in progress. It's science. We're all perfectionists. We're always trying for something a little bit better.
So there may be a universal flu vaccine very soon. Okay, that'd be pretty cool.
Which is nice. It's very nice. You can look at this in two different ways. On the first hand, you can look at it as tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going for the specific strain every year, they stepped back and they said, okay, what can we do against everything? And they found something much more holistic rather than specific. They switched their tactics.
Yeah. Okay.
Which you can you see that in different animals. Some are very specific creatures, very specific. Like this bird can only eat this kind of ants, or they only eat this specific stuff. Mm-hmm. There is if I'm not mistaken, a flower that is pollinated only by a certain species of bee. But this bee doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm. I read this in XKCD.
Yes, I remember reading about it way back in my studies back in university. It didn't have the wonderful picture that XKCD did.
Okay.
It was just one of those mentions. And so it's a very specific connection between the two species. And it works very well, but then you lose one and the other starts languishing badly. Mm-hmm. Whereas humans are generalists in this sense. We'll eat anything, we'll kill anything, we'll hunt anything.
Humans.
Woo! We're an apex mega predator, man. We are scared. We scare the bejesus out of the rest of nature. Yeah. We will chase creatures not for 5 minutes, the rest of the day until they die of exhaustion, and then we'll cut their corpse up. Mm-hmm. Why do we have dogs with us? because they were one of the only species on the planet that could keep up with us.
Yeah.
Well, our ancestors.
Yeah.
So, we're ultimate generalist predators. And so, yes, it's a nice way of a good example of showing the differences in tactics. When you get the opportunity, sometimes it's good to switch your tactics up and see how well that works. And then from the other perspective, you can also see us as, of course, a conspiracy idea.
Okay.
Why is the conspiracy group? Name a conspiracy group. Name somebody.
The Illuminati.
Okay. We'll go with the standard Illuminati. Why are they releasing this potential? How does this benefit them? How does this benefit the Illuminati and their Pharma Corp, subsidiaries?
Well, I suppose they could gain a monopoly on the particular solution.
So if they've managed to copyright this system so that method that promotes the growth of this T cell and production, yada yada yada, they get that copyrighted. They corner the market.
Yeah.
Then next thing you know, everyone's buying it, and then all they have to do is slip in a few little subtle mind control drugs into their chemical compound. Next thing you know, everyone's watching reality TV.
I'm actually kind of curious how the rules around flu vaccines work, and because I think medical technology like that has patents along with it, so I don't actually know how serious the patents are. They must be. They must be companies specifically that are allowed to.
That's why they're investing literally billions of dollars into coming up with the next big thing.
Yeah, well, that's good.
It's not the perfect system, but it is a working system that allows for progress.
Capitalism sort of kind of works, yeah.
There are some negative quirks associated with the whole thing. I would prefer if they put it back into public domain at a little bit of an earlier period of time, because it seems what goes into public domain is gradually being stretched out and longer before it does enter.
I wonder that we're talking about the specific, like the flu vaccine that has to be changed every season, basically. So I wonder if it's even possible to do a timed release, or if by the time it reaches public domain, well, it's not really useful anymore. So that's interesting.
There is that. On the other hand, sometimes the various strains do make a resurgence, and they go, "Oh, it's this one. Yeah, we already got the cure for this one. Let's just start pumping that out."
I guess so. There's something to be said.
Or it works effectively like this one. So yeah.
There's having a body of knowledge that you can draw from for future reference. Yeah, sure.
So that works out nice. On the other hand, just no, put more out of the regular stuff. It's just the same thing every year now. It's so much easier. They could be using that, as a way to cut down on their research funding. Now that they've got something that works generically better, why bother coming up with something that works perfectly every year?
So you're saying this is the conspiracy?
That could be one of the conspiracy things too, is to cut down on their research costs. They just make it, instead of like the gold medal, this one works perfectly, they go with the silver medal for everything.
Yeah. I suppose, being conspiracy-minded, they could be lying about the whole thing, right? They could be...
Oh, that could be another thing. Is you could work as to where they're lying on it. And it could be, it could just be like a placebo effect, and they're just going to give everyone placebos.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just saying, no, it was just research. Turns out upon further study, it doesn't work as well as we hoped. That line has been abandoned. They just sold you false hope for that while.
Yeah, but to what end? What were they trying to do with it?
Well,
just be evil.
With an Illuminati thing, there's always the advantage of saying that they want to make you feel, isolated. They want to make you feel depressed. They want to make you feel, unsatisfied, because that makes you like the perfect, modeling clay for which they can turn you into one of their pawns, or a consumer. You're more willing to spend money, which goes into their pockets, or you're more willing to do what they want you to do otherwise. So they'd have these entire programs just to make everybody feel not at the top of their game, because that makes it a little easier for the big plans they have to work almost flawlessly.
And the flaw I see in that problem, though, is that if you make people feel bad, they will seek out ways to not feel bad. Sort of like they'll take action, kind of like, you practice.
But that's the thing. It's just a little bit.
Okay.
It's not like, if you get yourself a rather nasty cut, like, oh God, there's blood spurting out of here, like I'm Spider-Man, shooting web. This is horrible. Get me to a hospital. But if it's a small cut, just a tiny little nick, like a paper cut, it's like,
just makes your day lousy.
And that's what they want, is they want to, not the horrible things to really get you bad, where you have to seek out a way to get better. They want to get you with 1,000 little paper cuts, just to slowly bleed you dry that way.
What a horrible thought.
I know, and that's the best part of the conspiracy theories, is when you realize the whole thing goes, that's just so horrible. That's when you know you've hit it. You've got the nail on the head there.
Okay.
So, but yes, ignoring that line of thought, the whole conspiracy thing, hooray, potential for a more generic medicine that works well for everybody and could be available in the numbers we demand on an annual basis. Woo! Progress.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Doesn't sound so good after the conspiracy ideas, though. And that's why they let the conspiracy ideas out. It ruins everything. It makes even the best news seem somewhat suspicious and, depressing.
Well, let's stop trying to depress the listeners and move on to another topic.
Not depress. Depress and inform.
Okay.
Make them think. Which is what they don't want you to do.
Okay, yeah. So there's your take home.
That's how you can prove that we're not part of the conspiracy, man. We're trying to get you to think about this sort of stuff.
Yes, we want you to think.
Whatever your conclusion comes out to, I mean, that's your own, your end point. We're not responsible, or can we claim full credit for whatever end conclusion you come to? So,
right.
We just get you started.
Why do I have the feeling that that's ominous?
It absolves us of legal culpability in the case of somebody's end point comes to the use of a gun. So, woo!
Okay. So I was trying to make a segue away.
Segue to a more main topic this week, I suppose.
Yeah, main topic. Well, we've talked about endings, I think, before on we've gone on a tangent to them, but we haven't really focused on them. And it occurred to me this week as I was playing my games and watching my shows and reading my short fiction, because I haven't started Neuromancer yet. I've been reading a lot of short fiction because, I got this idea formed in my head early on in the week, and I've been checking it out in more different styles. Mm-hmm. As I was playing Minecraft, I was listening to music, which is fun because I got a lot of music that winds up having sounds that sounds a lot like a zombie or a creeper. Gives me a panic. Look around. No, that was just on the music. Okay, back to work. Yes.
The wonderful state of semi-paranoia when you're working. Oh no, I can still get one little bit more done before it gets too dark. And I noticed the songs tended to end in two major ways. The first is that gradual fade out that everyone knows so well. You hear it from most of your songs. It just slowly fades, quieter.
You're basically playing the chorus usually again.
Yeah. Or it just comes to a sudden stop. Da-da-da-dun. The end. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's a minor variation where they play that final note and it just has that echo quality that kind of fades off into the distance. And I don't know which one that qualifies for, kind of a moderate between the two.
Okay, yeah.
And I know why they have the fade out on that stuff. They did some tests a little ways back, and it turns out that the people who have the songs fade out on them, their brain picks up on that, and so they keep hearing the song in their head, and so it becomes more popular song because you're listening to it in your head. You want to hear it again to get it right.
Yeah, I've heard something like that too. So
it becomes an instinctive part of humanity just to hear it and get it right, because that's how we keep information in our heads. You hear it, you repeat.
Yeah.
That's probably why we have a chorus in songs, is to get that repetition in there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that makes sense. And then I was reading some of the short fiction, and I noticed a lot of it just ended. It would have been the end of chapter 1 in a longer book.
Okay. Yeah.
I was reading some short fiction from almost 30 years ago now, and turns out the robot that just came off the manufacturing thing was Robot Jesus. And so the one human at the factory lets them go before the commandos come in and just destroy all of the robots, because there's a problem with a lot of the robots worldwide, and they're all looking to this one place.
Okay. So
they know something.
So they let Robot Jesus go, and then they don't tell what happens to him?
No. All that ends with is that the guy realizes that he has to follow his choice rather than just obeying what his superiors say. Otherwise, he's the robot. And that was kind of a nice ending. That teach you to critically think, because it's otherwise, are you really any better than a robot who's programmed only to obey?
Well, I guess. I mean, let me see if I can draw a lesson out of this. You shouldn't disobey orders just because they're orders. But I suppose
you shouldn't necessarily follow orders just because they're orders. In the end, you have to make an informed choice that corresponds to what you believe, to be.
Well, I mean, all other factors being equal, like I suppose assuming that the company that you work for, your robot building company, is sort of above board, and you don't know any good reason not to follow their
They
orders.
were in a bit of a panic situation. 1/8 of the globe was suddenly without power because of a power satellite detonating itself when people tried to tinker with it.
And this is an age in the future when they depend on satellites for power. Okay, yeah,
yes.
Gotcha.
Well, it was up in the Arctic, so they have to get it beamed up because the solar stuff isn't as reliable up there as it is, say, around the equator.
Okay, yeah.
So that, which corresponds, by the way, to like the star above Bethlehem. It was nice symbology working on there.
Oh, the satellite exploding.
Yeah, it was the star in the sky, sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's some nice symbolism in there, but it ended. It's like, so he lets out robot Jesus, the Matrix, which programs the core stuff as is like a Mother Mary, and, and the one other robot that's self-powered, effectively a Joseph type character. He's like able to at least move.
Okay.
And lets them out into the Arctic, and tells them to go until like robots are no longer being just automatically shut off or hunted.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got Robot Jesus in the Arctic wilderness. I'm willing to read the chapter on that story, see how all that goes. That sounds like something.
Yeah.
But no, that's where the story ends. And it's just like, well, you kind of set me up for something, and let's just go more. But it's 30 years old now. I don't even know if the author's still around, if they went off. I'd have to search up to see if they did any follow-up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm watching my TV shows, and again, I notice it just seems to end. They don't follow full with the consequences. They just come up with a nice quick answer solution, and there we go. Now everything's back to status quo.
Oh yeah, that's typical for your 30-minute television shows, of course.
And I'm willing to give it some leeway, because you only got 30 minutes to make it work.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Or 22, I guess, with commercials.
Yeah. And so it occurs to me a lot. It just seems like following these three types of formats, the ending wasn't given as much consideration as the start or the main sequence part.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I because I like to try and think like the full plot of a story before I start to write it. I like to think of a full like story arc, like especially when you're playing in games. Like how many MMOs have really had an actual ending to them? Most of them just we're shutting down in 3 months. Can't buy anything in the store. Sorry, bye.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, people start off things. Well, yeah, it's hard to say.
There's no end given for a lot of them when they shut down. The Matrix one apparently had something where it's effectively the Matrix is crashing and people are waking up. They gave it something, at least. It may not have been the best one, but at least it was something.
Sure, yeah.
And then how many games of D&D have you played where instead of the heroes win the day, the end, they go retire? It's like, no, the game just sort of fades as nobody's able to make it at the proper time and just hits that weird D&D limbo where the game just isn't continued anymore.
Yeah, well, almost all of them. And I suppose, like, it happens with other stories all the time, in that you pick up a book or something and you read a few chapters and then you sort of put it down, you mean to pick it up, but you never do again. Or the same thing, if you watch a few episodes of a TV show and then you, for some reason, get busy and don't finish the TV show, well, it's just the only difference is someone got tired before someone else did. Yeah,
it's a war of attrition almost.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the things that gets me, because especially with stuff like D&D campaigns, I've had very good experiences playing pre-generated stuff that had a beginning, middle, and an end. And you really do have that final sense of accomplishment when you hit the final page, and it's like, oh, this should have taken you up from level A to level B, and you've done so much, hooray!
Yeah.
And I liked it. The ending worked, and then the characters go off to do whatever it is the characters go off to do. Maybe you use them for another future campaign, but it it made more satisfactory of an ending. I felt okay with it.
Yeah, sure, and I suppose that's just the fact that you, the consumer, or the whatever, or the player, or the...
Well, that's the thing. As the DM, I was both a consumer because I bought the module, a user because I ran the module, and yet because of the nature of the cooperative gaming, I was as much a part of it as the players were.
Yeah, well, I guess that makes role-playing games kind of unique among cultural experiences in that,
That's why you should always pick up more adventure modules.
Yeah.
Even if you only run them instead of play through them, you're a part of it all the same.
Yeah, I'd say so. That's pretty cool. I like that.
It's an aspect they really haven't played up in a lot of their advertising. It would work.
They always, of course, they point out that it's interactive. It's about you make the story.
Well, yes, but from a commercial standpoint, what they should be doing is making here are the base couple books you're going to need, and then we'll put out splat books every once in a while. But what you really want to pick up is these wicked good adventure modules.
Oh yeah.
You could go through like these, like 3 of them a month if you're playing often enough. And that's good stuff. And, we got nicely done, good illustrations, good maps. And, hey, it's all nice. You don't have to make it yourself. You could if you want, but this one guarantees an ending as opposed to your grand schemes, which never hit full fruition, buddy.
Well, that's an interesting...
They probably shouldn't say it like that, of course, but the fact that it would have this whole, arc works. And I remember for 3.0, they had... a series of adventures that worked throughout the level, so you could play, started with the Sunken Citadel, and then you work yourself through the other ones, the higher adventures.
Yeah, different dungeons.
And so what you could chain them effectively together. Do they form a much bigger story? Not really, but they still chain, and they're all level appropriate, so you can work yourself through from 1 to 20, I believe it was.
Yeah, and of course they would, if you have the same, players with their own characters in, and then they do turn into a chain of story, actual...
It gets a little bit more.
Yeah.
But because each one has an ending, it's a nice point, like, okay, you've got this character, and then we can start off something new with them.
Yeah, sure.
It occurs to me, because it just seems a lot of people aren't focusing on the end as much as they are the beginning or the climax of the story.
I don't know. Well, is the end really that important?
I think the end is incredibly important. Just look at the unhappy endings for television series. Seinfeld, the ending was seen as a bit of a letdown.
Oh, I thought that was one of the better examples. Well, I don't know.
I think it worked well in correlation to the characters and how bad they were and as being properly shown. They're not good people. They make fun of things, and in the end they spend like a year in jail, it was, just talking. Just having fun and chatting, doing the same thing they did in New York City. And The Sopranos was heavily criticized with them dining. It's like, was the FBI, was it going to come raid them and all that? And it builds up, and then it's just 30 seconds of black. People were phoning, like the people, what the hell have you done with my HBO? I need to see the ending. Yeah. That's why right now, I don't think the full ending has come out yet for Breaking Bad. I'm bunkering down on the internet. Hopefully it'll be a great ending. Hopefully it'll be something that people say, oh yes, I saw this coming from episode 1 when I think about it really. Brilliant. I didn't really see it coming, but if you look back at episode 1, yes, this has made sense. This is complete nicely. Not going to promise it's going to happen, so I'm a little ready for horrible nature coming in.
Well, my problem with the... with going back to The Sopranos, was that I don't know if they could have ended that in a satisfactory way. I think that might have been one of the reasons why they just did 30 Seconds of Black, is because every ending that they wrote was like, it's a letdown, it's another letdown, it's however we do this, it's a letdown. So
then make it the best letdown you can.
Yeah, you think that's the way to do it? Okay.
Let's face it, not everyone has a happy ending, and The Sopranos was about the mafia. It's about the mob, man. Yeah. I mean, a happy ending isn't something most people realistically expect out of the mob, is it?
No, of course not, yeah.
And so it would have been, they could have said, oh, it's pretty depressing, but you know what? That's what happens when you live a life of crime.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't really watch too much, but I guess there's sort of the lowering of sort of that main character who's, like, very powerful, and then he's put into a different context, and he looks basically weak and like, you know.
Well, it was a lot about Tony Soprano there. He was the local, big man.
Yeah.
But he still had his weaknesses. That's why he was going to see a therapist, and that's why he had issues with, his family. So, I mean, you could say, on several senses he was weak, despite the fact he was the big, strong guy.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, because I guess things get turned upside down if he goes to jail or something like that, or I don't know what would happen to him, but probably, he'd probably go to jail.
Assuming things don't go bad during the takedown and he gets shot. So.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, we're talking about the endings they could have had. If it was like the ending that was perfect for it, then people wouldn't have said, like, oh, we'll talk about what ending should have been, because the ending that should have been would have been the ending that was.
I guess so, but in some ways I see that as people complain about the ending because it's an ending, because they don't want their favorite thing to end.
Maybe that's why Lord of the Rings was so popular. It didn't really have a big ending. It said about stuff that happened thereafter. Aragorn makes all the, in the next world age, all under Gondor's control, effectively.
Okay.
Yeah. The elves, and the wizards, and the friends of them all go off to the Undying Lands. And so it's not really an ending, it's just things go on, but it's much more peaceful.
Yeah, it's sort of hinting at that there's more adventures to be had, but right now...
But the worst of it is over.
Yeah, the main bit's over. But yeah, no, I think that's a good approach to take, I think.
That's one that people seem so very reluctant to use, which is the odd part about it.
Well, and speaking of like ongoing stories, like there's fan fiction, and I don't know why more authors don't directly write into this. And now you make your own story, because now this story is over, but there are more stories happening in the universe. But I don't have time to write them all, and I have other things to do.
And that's the thing. There's the last year's NaNoWriMo idea that I'm still mulling over now. I had the ending in my head, and spoiler alert if it ever gets written. They go through a portal to other lands, other worlds. They eschew, like, forming another cycle of how things go where, it would be basically like with Greek mythology. This person is in power, the next generation takes over, kills them, they become in power, repeat. Mm-hmm. First it was, the primordials, then it was, Uranos, and then it was, Zeus and his family.
Yep.
No, they would have broken that sort of cycle by, denying themselves that position of power, and then they just find a spot to somewhere else. And then just write, if you want to do fan fiction where the main characters wind up in, our world, write it, have fun. Equally valid. Everything else is equally valid after that.
That sounds good, yeah. That's another way to do it, I guess.
I would have been happy with that, as this for almost any story. It's something that seems to continue on. And maybe that's why I like the Wheel of Time series that I'm reading through, because I'm only on book 4 of 14. The ending of the book is not the end. And if that any point where it had ended where it did just at that book, it would have been a bit of a letdown. That's not the end. There's always going to be something more, it seems.
Yeah.
At least for another 10,000 pages.
Well, so you can have a lot of different endings, a lot of little endings, because, big stories are made up of a whole bunch of small stories, basically.
All interwoven properly, and if you get it just right, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So, it really strikes me as this, why are people not planning the ending like they plan the rest of the story?
Well, I thought that was standard literary advice, was to begin with the ending in mind. But they say, of course, you have to be flexible, because sometimes in the course of writing, the
characters
change.
just don't go that way. It's like, oh, how dare you thwart my plans, you fictitious character.
Yeah. But I believe it's common advice to say, think about your ending first.
So why is it almost like a forgotten, almost like okay, and then there was a party, hooray?
I don't know. I think
actually, I'd be kind of happy if that's how the book ended, and then there was just a rockin' party.
But I think my theory is what I mentioned earlier about the fact that audiences drop off at a different rate than the creators and producers. So there's a finesse in trying to match where your audience will lose interest or whatever, and where you lose interest or lose ability to fund it or whatever. So it's better. So people, they start out with this idea, like a TV show, they'll start out with a premise. You have characters, you have interesting things happening and whatever, but I suppose, you don't really have an ending.
Well, that's what I liked about Buffy, is there's so many times it was just, it might be canceled, we don't know. So that effectively at the end of every season it did have like an ending feel. Big Boss was destroyed or converted or, whatever, effectively eliminated as a threat. Next season, new big bad. Hooray! Yeah. And that seemed to work well, at least as well as you can ever really hope for television.
I guess, there's an artistic argument for doing a good ending, but there's like the monetary argument for not having a good ending is that then you can milk it for all it's worth. Just keep on going.
But if they like the characters well enough, then shouldn't it be worthwhile to just keep on going?
Well, I don't know.
Like I can take these characters and I can put them over here now, and now they're doing this sort of thing, and now they're doing that. And now they're a band this season. Hooray!
Well, if it's one character, like I don't know, like in Doctor Who, that the doctor, the actor gets tired or sick or dies.
They got a genius replacement plan for him.
Yeah, they just bring in a different actor. So I
think
that's
regenerated, new guy, same doctor. Hooray!
Because if it's all based on one person, either the actor, or the writer, or the director, or whoever, and that person can't keep it up, like you can't necessarily keep up projects for years.
And that's why I like the concept of the expanded settings things that work from time to time. Like, one person can't write all the things they need for the Star Wars universe. There's a full galaxy going on there, even if like there's some sort of wall that prevents you from actually accessing about a third of it. It's in there. Yeah. And so they have so many different, people writing the stories, doing this and that. And apparently they're going to have more than one director now doing the other stuff and some backstories and working it all. I like that. It adds more of a combined flavor when done right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes I have the feeling like there will be, like, I'm not necessarily looking forward to J.J. Abrams' version of Star Wars.
Yeah, well, I think we've talked about this before. I'm hesitant but willing to accept.
Okay. And I can imagine, like, a lot of fans would be like, well, that isn't Star Wars to me, so I'll just skip that one. That's what I
actually said for the Star Trek stuff. I've had very little desire to actually watch it. I hear it's good. I hear the actors are dang fine, but it's just not my Star Trek.
True, yeah. I didn't really enjoy the one I saw. Star Trek...
The first one? Or the Descent?
It's called Star Trek, right?
Yeah. Descent into Darkness sort of thing was the next one.
That's the next one. I don't even know.
Star Trek into Darkness.
Is that out yet? Or?
Yeah, it's out on the DVD, Blu-ray, whatever you're going to pick it up as.
Yeah. Or Netflix, but they're not a sponsor, so...
So buy it at the local, wherever they're willing to, sponsor us.
What was I saying, though?
It wasn't what you thought was yours, so...
Yeah, exactly. And so if you have multiple people working in the universe, you sort of have to get people used to the idea that not everything in this universe is going to match your expectations, because some authors will have different ideas to put into it.
On the other hand, in a big thing like a full universe, it does make sense for there to be somewhat different themes and tones going on, because...
It's a universe.
It's a big place, yeah.
No, I
it's
agree
like
with that,
listening
for sure.
to the music of Bjork. You can't just say, it's got to be only one style.
Yeah.
She goes wherever she wants. She's like a microcosm of the universe.
Yeah. And I suppose what you really need is you just need to remind you need some sort of trope, like the Doctor Who trope, in which the viewers are like, okay, we have a new actor now. It's like, so they completely, I mean, you get your hissy fits of people who say, but my Doctor, I loved him.
To be fair, the fourth Doctor was still always the best.
But you get the old
Tom
fans.
Baker, I love you, in a non-romantic fashion.
It's so funny because you get the old fans like telling the new ones off, like, "Oh, I was there too with my doctor, and I lost my doctor, so now you can't complain." Or I don't know how they put it, but basically now you're living through the same thing that I had to live through with losing mine. So you get this reinforcing culture of...
Or do you suppose that unifies them, is whenever your doctor is no longer the doctor, you join the mass of all the others?
Yeah, I think
and so you may not necessarily agree on to which doctor is yours, but you become a part of the whole.
I think so. And I think that strengthens a universe in, like, if you wanted to be able to continue with a TV show or something like that, that's how you do it. You have to create a self-reinforcing fan community where they tell each other things like, well, don't worry, the new Doctor will be different, but he'll have interesting adventures too. And
yeah, but I'm just thinking the expanded universe concept I think works great because sometimes this stuff stretches out across decades. Mm-hmm. Mark Hamill's probably not going to play Luke Skywalker ever again, simply because, well, too much time has elapsed.
It's possible. Like the next Star Wars movies are supposed to be sequels, right? So that they come after.
Yeah, but who's going to be focused in the sequel sort of thing? I don't think they're going with anything from the actual novels. So you can't state, like the 3 children of Luke. Luke had... I'm not sure if Luke had many kids. I do know Han and Leia had 3 kids, though.
Yeah, I think there's like young Jedi and stuff.
Yeah, there's stuff going on there. Apparently that's not getting followed. So.
Well, and that doesn't... I mean, I think it would be really cool if they did, but that doesn't bother me. But I imagine the film characters have a lot more sort of pop culture currency, and they're like, people know.
Okay, well here we can work it this way. Dan Aykroyd is still invested emotionally and time-wise in the franchise for Ghostbusters.
Yeah, for sure.
And yet, he's at a stage in his life when he doesn't look like he's running around with a backpack on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Most of the actors aren't that sort of physical state. Bill Murray just doesn't want to play the character much anymore.
Yeah.
And what do you do when the actor is done with the character? Well, okay, fine. You know what? It's a Ghostbusters franchise set out of New Orleans or Los Angeles or wherever, and then if you want to have the actors from the original series come on by and explain, oh well, why has he got a bit of a gut? Well, dude, he's retired. He's no longer active.
Yeah.
He's working in the sciences. He's just sitting around tinkering these days.
Well, and they did that with Indiana Jones. They had him pass the torch to the next, and that's a trope.
Except that it was Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, I think that was the idea though with the Indiana Jones one, is that he's got one last adventure, and then after that, there's a new... Although, who knows, there probably won't be more into Indiana Jones.
No, but I did like the ending that he wasn't quite ready to give up. There's always going to be another somewhat adventure for him.
True.
And for Indiana Jones, that makes a lot of sense. He's the kind of guy who likes that.
Yeah, and what else did they pass the torch? Well, Star Trek, they passed the torch with the very first episode they had Bones, Dr. McCoy.
Yes.
He sort of showed up. He was really old and
Yeah, but, I mean, I was like 160 years old, so he looked pretty good for a 160-year-old.
Well, that's always fun when they throw in that little, how long do people live in the Star Trek universe? That's
one of the things I did like about the Wheel of Time series, is in the world of the Third Age that's going on, their timeline for how long a person lives is about equitable to us, give or take. But one of the Forsaken, who was around at the golden age of legends, mentions how much different things were. Like at the time that they drilled a hole down to Satan himself to get more energy, which is actually what happened. Sorry for a spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
It's not exactly that much of a hidden thing that it's alluded to.
That's cool, though. Drill a hole down to hell, yeah.
We need more energy. Let's tap Satan for power. Yeah, what could go wrong there? But the person mentions that they were still quite young for their age. The whole thing. They were only a mere 200 years old. Still quite young by all standards.
The dwarves always delving too deep.
Pretty much what it is, except in this case, it's always just humans.
Okay.
So in that case, living 600 years would not be considered amazingly long lived. It's like, dude, everybody lived that long. That's how things are. What are you going to do about it?
It's always an interesting detail, but it's sort of it boggles my mind, because how can you even imagine what a lifespan that long would be like? I don't even know.
And that's part of what makes the Forsaken characters so scary. Not only are they allied with Satan, and the guys have the ability to use magic power without going corrupt, insane, and crazy, aside from wanting to serve Satan himself, whatever. They've managed to sit and train and learn for centuries. What even the best person alive can do now, they're still basically just a novice because they haven't lived long enough to pick up all the small tricks.
Magic tricks, yeah.
The little, idiosyncrasies that come with learning a system. The more experience you have with it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
These people have lived for centuries. They know it on such a much more fundamental level than anyone alive can do now, except for those who are touching upon their previous incarnations.
Well, if you lived an extra 100 years, that would be
with
enough
full ability, not just the people that are like 100 years old. And everyone brings them out. Oh, happy birthday, happy 100 years, and they don't even look aware. No, these people are young, spry, intelligent, able to keep working just like you or I could right now.
But could you get basically a PhD in every field if you lived
Well,
how long do you think that would take?
Well, let's see, 4 years to get your bachelor's.
Yeah.
Another 4 for a master's, and then another. We'll make these just more than just generalized because sometimes for some of the PhDs it takes longer than that. But we'll say 4 for each step. But you don't need to go back and get the master's for the basic degrees again because you can reapply what you've learned. Mm-hmm. I think an extra 100 years. Oh God, your student loans are going to be amazingly huge. You hope you're going to die for that because you don't want to have to pay back those student loans.
Yeah.
But
I suppose you couldn't keep current with every field, though. That's the problem, because our modern age things move so fast. It's hard to compare that to the ancient sort of stories that you read about wizards living 600 years. Well, in a wizard's 600 years, how much has technology actually
and
advanced?
Things changed pretty good back then too. I mean, 600 years would take you straight through the Black Plague. So you could, things would be very different, at various stages throughout your life. You have to be constantly relearning things.
Well, if we went 600 years back from now, it would be a pretty big difference. But imagine the year...
Geez, we wouldn't have even really isolated any of the elements by, was it going to be, just after the 1400s.
We wouldn't know there was an America.
Well, unless you were talking with the Vikings. They had stuff on there.
True.
Things would be a lot different. The whole concept of washing your hands, to get rid of disease would have been seen as ridiculous. Everyone knows diseases are caused by ill winds. That's why you put roses, on your horrible, creepy, mask thing you wear. That's what keeps you from getting sick. So it would be kind of like living with your parents when they spoke the stuff that's 50 years old and completely out of date, but magnified by orders of just degrees. Horrible.
Yeah, I think, if people lived 600, 700 years, there would be some pretty crazy people at 600 years old. Everyone
knows the whole medicine's bunk. You don't take any of the pills. You just got to make sure your humors are in alignment. Mm-hmm. That's what's going on.
And you wonder how that person ever made it to 600 years. I guess there's magic.
We'll assume magic in this case. Yeah. As they start cutting themselves to get rid of the sanguine humor. I used to have an abundance of sanguine humors. You just got to cut yourself lightly here.
Yeah. Leeches.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is not only would technology progress and the world progress, but the crazy would progress too. So it wouldn't even be leeches. It'd be like you take the leeches and then you boil them up into a stew, and then you do something with the stew, like you bury it at the crossroads, and then you set fire to the crossroads or something else. And the crazy just because you got 600 years of crazy to pile on top of it. So
great.
Things get really weird really quickly.
Yeah.
So maybe once again it's a good thing not to live forever.
And that's why there should be endings in mind.
Always got to be and maybe that would make for a nice short story. The person where people can live forever, and the person makes the choice not to. Why? Because the ending is just as important as the beginning or the middle.
Well, I think there have been stories where people have been given the opportunity to take immortality and have chosen not to. In fact, probably the majority of stories in which someone's offered immortality, the ultimate result is they lose that immortality either through their own choice or...
Mind you, I've only seen a few examples of where someone takes the immortality and then they flash forward 14 quadrillion years. where, evolution has taken its course, transhumanism has taken its course, and you are considered like the equivalent of an archaic amoeba to whatever humanity has become. Welcome to immortality.
I like that.
You're going to be in the zoo.
Well, you'd be in a zoo, but I suppose if they're sort of relatively humane people, they would give you sort of
a gilded
your environment.
cage is still a cage.
Well, I mean, the whole planet is a cage. I mean, remember...
And we are striving to get off of it.
Denmark is a prison, even if you're the king of it.
Well, especially if you're the king, because you can't just, cross the border elsewhere. You got to make plans. You got to go. There's all these sorts of people with you. They're effectively guards, man.
Or I suppose... No, he wasn't the king of Denmark when he said that. He was the prince. But anyways...
Or figure it this way, is what happens after the heat death of the universe? You're the only thing left. Even the universe has stilled itself to nothingness. And there you are, still. I guess, yeah. You're there when space and time itself breaks down from entropy. And you're just there. You and your long, long, long beard.
Long beard, long fingernails. Do your clothes rot?
Probably. Just from ambient movements, you wear them down to nothingness. The various protons and electrons within decay. But you are immortal. You're there forever.
Okay, if different, your clothes are decaying, wouldn't your, the
No, because you've got immortality. You're still there.
But, what if you chop off a hand or something like that?
You don't have anything left to chop it off with. That meat cleaver decayed particle by particle so many eons ago.
So anything that's part of your body... Well, I mean, this is crazy. But anyways, anything that's part of your body would still be there, basically.
Ostensibly, yeah.
Yeah. And does your hair count?
You know what? I'm willing to say at the end of the universe, eventually, even your beard, your hair, and all that decays.
So you're just a hairless...
hairless, naked person floating throughout the remnants of what was once the universe.
And are you old and wrinkly, too?
No one said eternal youth with this, so yes. Yes, you are.
Extremely old and wrinkly.
You are the oldest fart in the universe, if only because you are all that is left of the universe.
I suppose all the food would have also,
So yeah, you're also quite hungry, too.
Very hungry, yeah.
Keep in mind, at this stage of the, of reality, the electron stops spinning. The protons break apart. It all just decays. It's all gone. You don't even have rotten food left. You just don't have anything. Mm-hmm. Welcome to real immortality. No one ever sees the long term because no one thinks about the ending.
Interesting, yeah. And would you be extremely thirsty too? I suppose
yes.
You would, because all the moisture in your body would evaporate.
You would be insanely thirsty, insanely hungry, and very lonely.
But maybe your nerves might cease functioning because you wouldn't have the electrolytes that you needed to keep.
But you wouldn't die because you chose immortality.
But if your nerves aren't functioning, then you wouldn't feel anything. I suppose you need some nerves. You need your brain neurons.
Something would still have to be there to keep you alive and running for the immortality. So.
Yeah, unless your consciousness just simply becomes magical and sort of you watch your.
You just become a disembodied sentience, just doing nothing.
Yeah.
Well, at least that gets rid of the thirst and the hunger then.
Good thought.
There's a nice short story for you. Think about the ending. Immortality.
But no, I remember a Neil Gaiman comic or something like that where he turns it on its head. It's some guy wishes for immortality in the, 1200s or something, or maybe even earlier than that. And then every 100 years, death comes and visits him, and he's like, "Oh, so how's it going?" And the guy's like, "It's great. I'm immortal." And he kept youth for, I think he was allowed to keep his youth for some reason, or he's middle-aged.
Just sometimes the people that bestow these wishes aren't a dick. They'll give you eternal youth too.
Yeah,
it's a package deal. Don't worry.
In that particular story, I think it was the Sandman comic. Yeah, but so every 100 years, death comes back to him. He's like,
oh, hey, that's the one where death is like a goth chick too.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Better than most deaths when it comes to getting a visit from.
Oh no,
because most deaths, are like the scary, ominous. I've got a scythe sort of thing. So
But no, I remember now because it's actually Dream who comes and visits him because Dream steals him away from, like, not steals him because they're sort of brother and sister, I think. So, but Dream says, okay, like, can I have this guy and to play with or whatever from Death? And Death's like, okay, yeah, I got lots of people you can have him. And so Dream comes and visits him every 100 years. And he's like, yeah, no, it's great, I'm fine, so no problems yet. I imagine, yeah, if we ever got to the end of time, then that might, I don't know.
Yeah, just make sure if you are getting, wishing for, immortality, make sure there's a revocation clause on this sort of thing, because you got to think the long term, you got to think the ending.
I don't know, if I am given the opportunity for immortality, I might just take it, even without. Well,
get the revocation clause.
I'll ask for it, but if I can't get immortality, if I won't commit, then I'll go ahead and commit. 'Cause I might as well give it a shot. That's what I think.
Okay, just saying, eventually you may have to start thinking about like suicide sort of thing, because
Yep.
That's one of the things. And if you're truly immortal, I mean, why not see what's on the other side of that black hole? Just die. I mean,
that'd be fun. Sounds good to me.
And according to the Stephen Hawking stuff, the black holes do emit some form of radiation, so they're not totally black. So eventually they will decay out into whatever it is, and then if there's anything left over by the time that happens, you can tell everybody what was there. What's singularity like? Oh, hey, I totally got the answer for you on this. And then whatever the heck it is. I don't know. Don't pretend to know. According to some mathematical models, it still hasn't happened due to how time warps in the presence of infinities.
How would you go back? You'd have to have some time travel to go. Oh, but yeah, does time go in reverse inside a black hole? Something like that?
Well, that's the thing. According to certain mathematical models, time doesn't in a black hole.
Okay.
Even the earliest black hole to have formed still hasn't finished forming because of how time starts working when you start involving the number infinite in there with the equations. It gets weird.
So if, from your perspective, I imagine if you jumped into a black hole, you would jump in, and to you it would feel like, oh, I just jumped in and I got spat out again. Oh, it's the end of the universe? That's weird.
Oh, jeez. What do you mean I missed it? What do you mean I missed the universe? Well, at least you got all that matter that got sucked in there, too. So you don't know if anything else is alive, but you won't technically be alone. You'll have, some sort of, crushed matter to make snowmen out of or something.
Mm-hmm. Although the matter is emitted at a rate of, I don't know what the Hawking radiation rate is, but it's not especially fast.
No, it's going to be a long time.
Spat out, and a million years later, the person who followed you in gets spat out too.
Well, so that's the thing is the whole black hole would apparently collapse after a certain period of time, so everything just pops out at that point. According to some models, we're still not certain.
Okay, well, yeah, neither of us are physicists, so.
And even the physicists aren't 100% certain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions on that. But, if you're immortal, truly immortal, give it a shot. What do you got to lose? Oh, but wait till you're good and depressed first on that. Okay. Don't do it when you're happy. You wind up, oh, I'm so happy, and then you pop out and say, oh, that's the end of the universe. That's a huge letdown. But if you go in while you're depressed, and then you come out, oh, end of the universe, well, that's fitting with my mood right now. Okay.
And then the restaurant shows up.
Or I suppose you could wind up just, having fun. Just, oh, hey, what's that? It's on the middle-aged star there, so it goes supernova in 4 billion years. I'm leaping in. I want to see what fission feels like firsthand.
Now, I don't know how you're getting propulsion, but...
Well, in this case, I'm assuming you just kind of jump out of the spacecraft.
Okay.
Make it a rental. They're not going to be able to get you for the fee.
Good thinking. Yeah. And then there's stories that don't end, but have you ever read a story where it loops back to the beginning, sort of? Like it might be time travel or something like that.
Some time loop stuff. See, that's what I like about it when it works that way, because then the person has clearly thought about the ending. Because the ending isn't truly an ending, it's just one point in a cycle.
It's like the story starts all over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it works good for ghosts and hauntings and that sort of thing.
It's a handy way to solve paradoxes in that, oh, well, it never happened, or so, like...
Or the paradox doesn't technically resolve because it doesn't come to be. It just keeps looping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, yeah.
So, fun stuff to happen there. I do like the stories where the ending is written first, and then you go throughout the rest of the story as everything falls into place.
Yeah, like mysteries are often like that. Yeah.
And that way, you effectively it's like reading a puzzle being put together, but a lot more exciting than actually reading about a puzzle being put together.
Mm-hmm.
Say, oh yeah. I know. How's that song by was it Tool goes? I know the pieces fit, so I watched them fall away.
Oh yeah, I remember that song.
So it's just, you know it all comes together. The question is how, and then that becomes a very different sort of read. You know what's going on, how it will end, but you don't know how it gets there, and that's a lot of the fun, if done right.
Yeah, I wonder, if it's possible to write a story where people will be like, oh, okay, I know what happens at the end. Okay, I'll put the book away.
Well, I do know for the television series How I Met Your Mom, that's been a big question, is how does it get there? And who? Apparently they don't mention like who the mom is, but there's aunt this and aunt that. So they know the characters. The question is how does it get there?
Okay, yeah.
And that's something really, I think, worth a little extra bit in there. Aside from, the great actors, what I've been told is great, plot and story. I haven't seen a lot of the stuff. It hasn't really captured my interest, but I do support it.
So what's your final chapter when it's a book like that, or a TV show or whatever? When it starts with the ending.
Did I ever tell you How I Met Your Mom?
Yeah.
Starts
that way.
And ideally,
how does that end?
Ideally, it ends with the meeting. It ends with the beginning.
The same scene again? It's just, I guess because then the listeners, readers, viewers can see it in a different context, and they'll appreciate it in a different way when they see it again.
Well, so that's the thing is he never mentions how the mom. It starts off with like at this point so many years before he actually meets his future wife.
Okay.
And so in that case, the ending would be what he originally started to tell so many years ago. If it works just right, it would be in a situation whereby all the stories and all the stuff that happened matters, and it could not have come to be without that sort of sequence of events happening, without everyone becoming who they were.
Yeah.
And it all comes together, and that's when he really meets his wife to be. So if they get it just right, it'll wind up being a spectacular ending in that it's the beginning. And that the story leading up to it all made sense. It had a purpose for it, rather than just let me tell you stories about when I was young and I didn't have kids to ask me what life was like before them.
Yeah, well, because we tell stories for a reason. Like we sort of sometimes forget this because it's all about entertainment. It's always all about keeping people engaged. But the ultimate sort of reason for telling any story is because there's some point to be made about the story.
Which is why I say the best ending for it would be in a point where the story makes sense and has something to deal with how the end came about. Mm-hmm. It's not just going to be he rounds the corner, meets a hot-looking lady, asks her out on a date. And that's How I Met Your Mom. So what happened about the 5 years of stories you've been telling us, Dad? I didn't want to, just tell you the quick story like that, so I just spread it out.
Yeah. Well,
kept you away from the TV for so many years.
I wonder, though, too, like, we've talked about pacing a little bit before, too, but sometimes all you need between events is something to happen, some intervening time, so you need some, like a random encounter just to pad it out, just so that the characters aren't immediately this happens and immediately that happens and there's no time to process, sort of. It
does help give the proper feeling of pace that way, yes. That said, I don't know if it works the same for television as it does for like a D&D encounter.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Just how it goes, I suppose. Would be interesting to see that in a story like, what's it called? Is this just me or does this feel like a filler episode to you? It's like, well,
and the viewer's like, off. Flick it off.
Hey, sometimes filler episodes are the most entertaining.
Actually, yeah, that's true. And especially if you can do something different and sort of breath of fresh air, kind of like a musical episode.
Yes, I think the musical episode of Buffy, or the one where they can't speak.
Yeah.
very much different, very much had its own style to it, and that's why it won awards. So I want to make sure that we have a proper ending, proper verdict.
Proper ending. Well, we have about 10 more minutes of conversation to have.
10 more minutes?
So we'll just pat it on out there for
No,
you
I suppose this is where we properly start to wrap it up.
Okay.
So as we look at it in different genres. So these days, now that we have so many songs ending with the fade or with the sudden, just final power note, that's it. Mm-hmm. Should there be, like, if you want to be a different kind of person, should you have the different kind out there, the different ending, just because that way it is a different ending and it's not something everyone knows of, everyone's heard of?
Maybe. It'd be interesting, like, how songs that fade out will often fade out with the chorus. So it's sort of something that you sort of already expect and you know what's coming next. So imagine if you end a story, a television show or a book or something with sort of a repeat of the same chapter, like sort of the next day they went to the store, and then they went to school, and then they went to work, and then they had this for dinner, and then the next day they did this and that. Sort of a repeating, almost like the chorus of the book, almost like just fade out. And just
or I guess the central premise for the sitcom.
And you can even say, okay, at this point, dear listeners, you can tune out now because the rest of the story is they just go about their lives. But in case you want a couple more little details, here they are. Like
at least it's something different, and I think there's a decent enough market to pick up on that. I like to think there is, at least.
I think endings get read, like especially in novels, endings get read a lot less frequently than beginnings.
I can understand that's why beginnings are so focused on. If you can't hook them within the first 5 pages, you're probably going to lose most of them.
Yeah.
I know there's a few books I haven't really gotten beyond the first 5 pages because it was just so mundane and boring. It's like, dude, you're a dwarf. I don't want to hear about how you don't want to go to dinner with your in-laws. I want to hear dwarfy things. I want
to hear mining and
this is supposed to take place during an apocalypse going on. You are a dwarf with an apocalypse oncoming. I want to hear exciting things. I want to hear stuff that sets up for great things. I don't want to hear about how you don't want to go to dinner with your wife's in-laws. I want something better than that, Mr. Dwarf. So I can understand. On the other hand, a bad ending could put you off of the entire author's body of works. It's like, this guy again, I hated how his last book ended. I'm not even going to start.
Yeah, I guess it gives you the feeling that he doesn't care about it.
Or it just wasn't well thought out.
Yeah, and readers, if they don't think that the author is putting effort into it, then, they won't want to read it.
So I am willing to always grant leniency on television series for this because so many of them end on a potential, we don't even know if we're getting picked up next year sort of vibe. I'm willing to grant them the leniency on that because it's beyond their control. Mm-hmm. They're just working with the best that they can. Mm-hmm. That said, it could pay off better if they, instead of always ends on a cliffhanger, now you got to renew us if you want to find out how this ends. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work with executives. I'm sorry. They don't care.
And rarely you get fan movements to save a show, although it happens from time to time.
It does manage to work occasionally. Futurama managed to come back a few times. Mm-hmm. What I would like to see negotiated in more clauses is, if we're not getting picked up for the next season, put us in for an hour and a half or 2 hour finale special. Yeah.
Or a movie for some.
Well, if that's how it works, it'd be like a 4TV type movie in this case. Yeah. Because that way it's we weren't able to give you the ending that you wanted. It's not going to be after 7 seasons. We only got 2 seasons out of this, and then the finale episode. But at least that way, the executives look like better people because they said, we can give this to you. We can make this work for you.
I don't think they care about looking like good people, though.
Well, Fox over the years has gotten such a bad press. Because they just keep dropping things. They clearly don't care that it's become like a joke.
And they don't care if people think that they don't care.
And that's a thing. That's a problem that they have to work with now.
You think they should care?
Well, they had a problem with it after a few seasons after the original dropping of Family Guy. because whatever else was put in that slot got dropped. Greg the Bunny, all this, all that. They were. It's like you couldn't keep anything in that slot. They even made a joke about it when Family Guy got picked up again, and it was like, oh, we're gonna get picked up again. No, really? Sure. If A, B, da, 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 and this all, if they all fall through, yeah, then we'll get picked up again. And it was like a minute and a half of just saying the names of the series. It became its own joke, and people weren't watching the shows on Fox that they were replacing with, because they're not going to get a full season. They're going to have 6 episodes at most, and then they're going to get dropped again because of the Fox executives. And so it became this whole negative cycle.
Yeah, that's too bad. Well, in some ways, like, aren't we sort of transforming to something like more of a YouTube Central, or like we're watching our programs, like the users have more, or the viewers have more choice over what they watch?
Oh,
so
yes.
If you watch online, then
very much so.
You don't have to answer to the networks. You just put up your little series on the web, and there you go.
And if you want a second season, Kickstarter for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You want another season, Kickstarter for that one too.
Yeah.
And I think that works much better. It's much more democratic. That said, you really do have to get that fan base in there to get the people to give the drive for it, to make sure you can get that extra season in. So in that case, it could be even perceived as harder than just working with the TV executives.
Well, harder in a good way, because it's more directly engaging with your audience. It's working hard on probably things that matter a little bit more. Although I guess there's artistic integrity that's sort of independent of audiences or executives, but that's a sort of
that's a golden pearl. If you can get that, go for it, but don't rely on it. Don't force that to happen. It's not.
Yeah, well, you can be the it's hard to. TV is so big and involves so many people. It's very hard to do something that's got a singular vision that is unchanging, especially with TV. Yeah.
Okay, so what about let's work this into the other genres. How focused should there be for an ending on the pen and paper games? Should there be when you set up I have a campaign idea in mind. How much should you pay attention to make sure that there is an ending, so that the players remember it fondly? And we vanquished the guy, and big old party, and everyone's happy for us. Versus, we never did finish that. So and so went away, and then there was the break, and then we just never got back into it.
That one's, it's tricky because it can't just be the DM story, because I guess if the DM is a really good storyteller, it can. But it also has to be like, my character's the cleric of so-and-so, and he wants to be the high priest. And if the DM has some sort of other ending in mind, then that particular character never gets the ending they want, even if
they never get their ending, even if there is an ending. That's a very good point. Of course, mind you, the best, stuff like any RPG, where it's a collaborative storytelling, always does focus, it weaves several threads together. So, in vanquishing the big bad, you've proven yourself worthy, and the high priest that currently is there abdicates in favor of you in your proactive, I'm going to smash baddies stance. It's a thing. That said, of course, when you do plan an end for pen and paper, like the RPGs and all that, it does give you certain limitations, and not everyone's big on that.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to keep it a little bit open-ended. You can have events planned for the end, though, that sort of, like, this happens in the world, whether, some god awakens at a certain time, whether the players...
The Destroyer is manifest. The Destroyer is manifest.
Yeah.
Then klaxon bells from the heavens ring out all over the cosmos.
I suppose you don't want to do that sort of out of nowhere, though. You want to at least give a hint. There's this prophecy that he'll come back, and then I suppose the players could...
You better finish this storyline within, 8, adventure sessions. Otherwise, evil god rises, everybody dies.
Or, what would be fun is to play a campaign set 6 months before the heat death of the universe. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the heat death.
The apocalypse of the cosmos.
Maybe the sun is about to envelop the Earth or something like that, and you have 6 months, and you're not getting off the planet, but you can have some adventures in the meantime.
I think you could open yourself up to the true zen of experience in life that way. Because it's like damned if you go one way, damned if you go other. Just the story with the two tigers. The Zenism, the guy's getting chased by a tiger, looking back, doesn't see where he's going, falls off a cliff, grabs a hold of a branch, before he, falls, and he looks down, there's another tiger down there. If he lets go of the branch, he'll fall and get eaten by the second tiger, but if he tries to climb up, he'll get eaten by the first tiger, who's still waiting at the top of the cliff. So he's there hanging on, and he looks over and he sees a strawberry. And he picks a strawberry and he eats it. And it's the sweetest strawberry he's ever tasted. So in the face of damnation, no matter what you do, that little bit, that thing that you do is the sweetest, is the best. Even if in the end it really doesn't matter what decision you wind up making for your ending.
Might have to write that down for a campaign idea to have one day.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you don't necessarily need to work as like the heat death of the universe or like the sun's exploding. You could work it like in like a D&D mythic style, like your prime material plane, not the prime, but just one of the primes, the one that you're in has become detached from the rest and is slowly sinking down to the negative energy plane as the world starts disintegrating around you.
Cool.
And then you get sort of like the story, like with the Neverending Story, how you've got the nothingness eating away at everything. So you've got that in the face of that, and this is something beyond even the most epic of spells. So even it's like, okay, we're level 20. Oh, we still don't have the power to get it. Even though we're all wizards, we just don't have the power to stop this. At least not on the scale we want.
Wow.
So what do you do? What do you do when the world's disintegrating?
I imagine some players would not be happy with that sort of scenario.
Well, that's the thing, is if you come in with the whole thing like, okay, here's the ending.
Yeah,
the world dies. The world, is destroyed.
Yeah.
What do you do? Like we're gonna play this as a campaign, and it's basically gonna be what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do with those last 6 months for the entire world? I mean, there's that sort of scenario when you get cancer, right? And what do you do with your last 6 months?
They made some very good movies on that.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that tends to be a nice focus on it. So yeah, the ending is very important because not only does it make for a nice story completeness, but it also colors the rest of the story under a different light that way.
Yeah.
If the guys are just going on, let's do crazy things, let's go skydiving, it's like, well, that's one thing, but it's like, oh, we've got cancer, let's go skydiving, let's truly live the life. It's very much a different story that way. The ending does matter.
Cool.
Oh, that said, those out there who are listening, this is not some way for us hinting this is our final podcast. Tune in again next week.
Of course. We're at the same place. You can email us, thesimulationist@gmail.com.
Same Simulationist time, same Simulationist channel.
Yeah. We have a YouTube channel, The Simulationist, and a Facebook page, The Simulationist on Facebook, and wherever else fine podcasts are found. You've already found us somehow, but send us along to your friends and neighbors and kids and
Yeah, that's right. You can send it on to kids. We try and keep this clean.
Indeed.
Some people swear a lot, but not us. We don't try to. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah, and we have the handy beep function, so that's all good. So I've been Josh Trelevin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby. This is the end.